never planned to become a founder. In fact, if you had told me earlier, or if you had told an earlier version of me that one day I would lead a nonprofit, build community, speak publicly about transitions, and create spaces for people navigating identity shifts, I probably would not have believed you. But transitions have a way of changing not only our circumstances, they change what we feel called to build. Hi again, my name is Lydia, and I share real stories in the context of transitions, particularly mine. And maybe at some point we'll begin sharing other people's stories. That's because change is what happens around us all day, every day, constantly. But transitions is what happens within us as we navigate all these life's transitions. And many people really do underestimate how deeply transitions shape identity, how those shape purpose, how it shapes leadership, and the directions of our lives. This channel is for people who want to move through life intentionally, people who want to understand themselves better, grow through change consciously, and build lives that feel aligned emotionally, personally, and professionally. Myself, I've experienced many transitions: immigration, military life, motherhood, mental health struggles, career reinvention, identity rebuilding, entrepreneurship, creating meaningful work while still becoming myself. And through all those experiences, I slowly began understanding something important. Sometimes the hardest seasons of your life prepare you for work you could not have understood earlier. That is why here we name the transitions that quietly shape us. You might have been going through the fire so that your next season becomes your purpose. Well, we here have decided that we are not going to be passers-by in our lives. We're not going to be people who just watch and spectate. We are not going to just exist. We are going to take control. We are going to understand life, and we are going to thrive. You're in the right place. Let's get into it. Now, as I began and I became more aware of the experiences that many immigrants and military spouses were carrying quietly, I started feeling increasingly uncomfortable ignoring it. I kept thinking, why are so many people navigating major identity transitions alone? Why is there so little language around these experiences? Why do so many people feel invisible while carrying enormous emotional adjustments? And eventually, those questions became bigger than me. Well, still, becoming a founder was not only an external shift, it was an identity transition. Because leadership changes you. I had been in leadership positions before, but I'd never started an organization to change narratives, to raise awareness, to support others. I had not done that ever. I had done private work, consulting work, but if you understand what a nonprofit is, or an NGO, if you may, there's a lot that comes with it. Because leadership changes you, responsibility changes you, visibility changes you, and I don't think people talk enough about it. I love to read, and one thing researchers on leadership development often discuss is that leadership is developmental. It's not simply a title. It changes how people think, how they make decisions, how they regulate emotions, how they handle uncertainty, and how they relate to others. And I experienced that deeply. I had to grow into responsibilities I had never held before. I'd never been a CEO of a nonprofit, let alone a nonprofit that I founded. So I had to learn. I had to learn how to communicate vision. Still learning. I had to learn how to build structure. still learning. A lot goes into it. I had to learn how to advocate. I had to learn how to manage expectation. I had to learn how to continue growing publicly. That is one hard thing because there are eyes on you now. I had to learn how to manage people, expectations, manage people who depended on me, people who would look up to me. There's a lot that I had to manage, and at times that felt overwhelming. To be honest, it still does feel overwhelming sometimes. There are moments that I question myself constantly. Am I qualified enough? Am I experienced enough? Am I prepared enough? And I think many people experience this when entering new identities, especially identities with visibility and responsibility. However, there's one thing I began understanding as well is that confidence often develops through participation. I said that before. Action builds the confidence that you're looking for. Don't wait for that confidence because it develops through participation. It develops through action. You don't sit and wait to be confident. The more you do it, the more you become confident. So participation is what builds confidence. It doesn't come before it. We assume capable people feel fully ready, but many capable people are learning while doing. They just continue moving. I can tell you that every single day I wake up and I say, I'm just gonna keep going. And one thing grounded transition has taught me is that transitions require internal adaptation. You cannot sustainably step into a new role externally without gradually expanding internally too. That expansion is part of transition. I was no longer only seeing myself as someone rebuilding after difficult seasons. I was beginning to see myself as someone creating, and creating had never been a part of me. And also creating in this magnitude, or creating in this space, or creating for this audience. There's a lot that goes into that. Yes, I've created before, but probably it was for my own, sometimes it's just, something for my own consumption or consumption of a few friends, or something like a consultancy. It's for the consumption of the people who are going to be clients, or are clients. So creating at that scale, creating for that audience became something very new. I was beginning to see myself as someone contributing. I was beginning to see myself as someone leading, someone helping others navigate transitions more intentionally. And that identity shift changed the way I moved through life. It did. It also enabled me to open my horizon and know that many people underestimate themselves because they're comparing their beginning to someone else's developed stage. I definitely looked at that because I've worked at least in this space within 3 different non-profits. And it's easy to look, oh my God, they have already developed this system, there's that. They already have paid employees, they have this, they have that, they have a CRM system, they have a functioning website. And you are just starting out and you're starting to wonder, oh my God. So you constantly underestimate yourselves because someone else's advancement or where the position there is not where you are. They are at a developed stage. You are just starting out, you're just developing. Transitions often require us to grow into versions of ourselves we have never met before. I could talk to you all day, every day about that. And that process can feel uncomfortable. I will not lie to you. Maybe what has enabled me to really hone in on it and not give up, because there are many times I felt like, oh my God, it's not the right time. Oh my God, this and that and that. Things happen around you and you're like, oh, crushes your spirit. You get some calls, you get some emails, you're like, oh, another day, the uncomfortability that makes sure that you are actually growing into a version of you that you've never met, a version of you that can sit with uncertainty, a version of you that can see a future that doesn't exist yet, a version of you that has to acknowledge certain weaknesses that become amplified by virtue of you being a leader, a version of you that has to contend with the fact that nobody owes you anything, a version of you that has to acknowledge that you might pour everything in and not get anything out yet, or it might take a lot of time. I can go on and on and on and on and on. That process can be uncomfortable. I'm still going through it, so, and I'm just happy that I'm able to live it out and say it as it happens, real time. It's very uncomfortable, not because you're incapable, it's just because you're expanding. And that's how I look at it from what I've come to put together, which is the grounded transition. Well, my people, sometimes the next version of you requires responsibilities the current version has not fully learned how to carry yet. But it doesn't mean you cannot carry it. Looking back now, I realize that every transition before this had taught me something important: awareness, empathy, adaptability, emotional depth, resilience, pattern recognition, and those experiences eventually became part of how I lead. Because building something meaningful does not only change your work, it changes your voice, it changes your confidence, it changes your identity, it changes your relationship with yourself. And that is where the next season begins. Sometimes the transitions that almost break us, you're like, I don't think I can manage, I don't think, no, I've had enough. Those become the very things that prepare us to build differently. Well, if you've ever stepped into a role you did not initially feel ready for, I would love to hear what helped you grow into it. I could use some help here. And if you're navigating a transition right now, whatever it is, it might not be big, it might be small, it might be right in the middle. I have a grounded transition checklist that I will list below. We'll link it, please look at it. It's designed to help you identify what you might be going through and what might be happening to you internally, so that you can move through change with more awareness, more grounding, and more intention. Because as we have identified that here, we are not just participating in life, we are not just spectating. That was what I wanted to say. I apologize. We're not just spectating in life. We have decided that we're going to take charge. We have decided that life is not just going to be for existing, that waking up and sleeping, we are going to be intentional. And we are going to thrive. Stick around. If this resonated, please subscribe, like, and share with someone. I'll see you again tomorrow.